if we use the same logical structure for absolutely everything that we do in our world, we'd be doing the most retarded shit ever.
You do not want to live in a world where people can just fucking murder each other. You don't want to go into a court. Okay, you want to live in a world where murder is legal?
Yeah. Would I have an issue opening up a Holocaust to get rid of these people? No, I wouldn't see an issue with that. I actually don't see an issue with that.
So when we're talking about nature, we're not talking about, are there people out there who think, something natural like rape is good? Okay, well, therefore it's good in that context.
Rape is good.
You think rape? Do you actually think rape is good?
All right. So the reason rape is good is because, for example, like in nature.
Oh shit.
But the argument that it's good for human health because it's natural, that is false. Well, I don't think they've got a response to that. I mean, milk.
Isaac is a first-time caller out of Ontario.
My question is, why aren't you vegan yet?
I like meat.
Right, but I mean, if you liked the taste of humans, would that be a good reason to eat them?
If I like the taste, yes. Wow.
Hey, Footsoldier, what's the argument for P4?
The argument for P4, so if you take the process of more system, so what, you saying, okay, well, maybe it isn't a metamorphosis, is that what you're saying?
You sophist.
If you have two diets, Diet A and Diet B, Diet A, you will have worse health outcomes than Diet B. Diet B will have better health outcomes than Diet A. However, the caveat with Diet B is that you will get one or two nutrients from a supplement as opposed to food. However, in spite of that, you will have better health outcomes. Is there any amount of scientific evidence that would convince you that the vegan diet with supplementation, proper supplementation, is analogous to B, and your diet is analogous to A?
I have to give you the simple answer of no.
Oh, so the only goalpost would be that it would be your personal experience.
Right, in the definition of the word diet that you're saying.
You choose veganism, there's ways to reduce suffering more than veganism. And then if you want to take this to the logical conclusion, I mean, you could just kill yourself.
There is no mechanism by which LDL causes heart disease.
How do you know there is no mechanism?
Because I haven't seen one.
In order for a mechanism to exist, you actually need to be aware of it. Is that your position?
Yeah.
If there were a human Holocaust taking place, and there were humans in those factory farms, would you say that you have a moral obligation not to buy the products produced by those farms?
That's the thing, I genuinely don't know.
If you think that P4 is true, right, then what's the argument for that?
It's assumed that it's going to be one or the other.
What's the argument for P4?
It's an assertion that that is the case.
Look, if we're going to live in a country that's what, a 15% black, 20% Mexican, 20% Asian, at the very least, when I'm getting shot in the stomach and raped and people sticking AIDS needles in my neck, at the very least I want to have a decent hamburger.
So what is it that's true of the animals that, if true of the humans, would cause you to have the same attitude towards them?
Animals are tasty.
Okay, so if humans taste good, you would consider it ethical to support a Holocaust of humans? That's the position?
No, because
that's
humans
contradiction.
can't eat.
If you smoke 10 packs a day, and you got your blood tested, and your blood tests improved in their biomarkers by whatever biomarker metric you think is an improvement, would you conclude from that experience, or experiences if they were consistent, that smoking 10 packs a day is healthy for you? In spite of the long-term prospective cohort studies showing it causes cancer, you would ignore that because you haven't experienced the cancer. Is that correct? Yes or no?
So my answer to that would be yes.
Okay, good.
So I take veganism to be the default ethical position. There are, of course, morally relevant differences between humans and animals, for sure. However, I don't see any morally relevant differences between humans and non-human animals such that I would be okay with farming and slaughtering if those aspects were present in a human.
This is where, like, your argument needs to become somewhat grounded in reality, right? because in reality, right, back in the 1860s, we fought this thing called the Civil War, right? And in that, right, we had to fix some constitutional problems with regard to states' rights, right? Because of what? Oh, yeah, that's right, an issue called slavery, because human beings just want to be caretakers of the earth, right? So we all, like, we understood this. So now it's like, in order to get into your argument, just to go back to the Civil War would be kind of disingenuous. Now, in order to get into this conversation, we're actually going to have to dive a little bit into psychology. So for dogs, for example, I've got 6 here in the house, right? Whenever they're just being able to be chilled out, and then it's through corruption that humans become dehumanized. Cannibalism, right, while it may have happened from time to time out of absolute necessity, would not have been good for propagating the species, right? So that's why Homo erectus won out, and here we are. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I actually understand your point.
Are you actually saying that in order for a mechanism to exist, it needs to be in your personal mind? And if it's not in your personal mind, it just doesn't exist?
Yes.
What is the trait true of animals that, if true of humans, would cause you to say that's ethical?
Sentience.
They're both sentient, so that's not a differential property.
This is supposed to be the premise for your argument. So if you're going to say the premise is if the trait equalizes in process team in amorphosis of object A and object B, then A becomes identical to B in respect to the name trait. Why is that?
So you're asking me for an argument for a premise of an argument for an argument against an argument. Is that what you're asking?
I'm asking you for the argument for premise 4.
What you're saying is not scientific, unfortunately.
Who's the senior scientist of the two of them?
Just because someone's senior doesn't mean
Who's
they're
the
not
senior
wrong.
scientist of the two of them?
Just because they're your senior doesn't mean you're not wrong.
Scientific, Charlie Brown. You back it up with some credentials, okay? Have you got a list of publications as long as you fucking...
Have you ever actually...
Have you got a list of publications as long as your arm?
Have you ever actually treated...
No, you don't. Have you acted as peer reviewer for 3 separate journals? No, you fucking haven't.
Have you actually...
Have you taught more pre-med students than you've had hot dinners? No, you fucking haven't. I have. You will give me some goddamn respect. Don't tell me what is scientific and what is not, Charlie Brown.
There is surely some threshold beyond which you're going to say you are doing something wrong. You oughtn't do that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So the first premise is if avoiding meat produced through capitalism sufficiently maximizes well-being, then we'd be immoral not to avoid buying meat produced through capitalism.
No, I strongly disagree with that. I think that it's perfectly moral to
that's
buy
a
stuff
contradiction. Okay, wait, but there you did just contradict yourself because you said that there's a threshold beyond which it's immoral, and now you're saying there's not.
Yeah, but it's not at buying meat or buying anything.
No, but it's an implication, right? P implies Q, so it's if it sufficiently maximizes well-being, then it's something that we'd be immoral not to do.
Yeah, but I don't think that applies to commodity purchases. I don't think there's any circumstance by which buying meat would trick that immorality.
What about consumption of your own fecal material? If you had a good experience with that, and there was a large amount of prospective cohort data to conclude that led to unhealthy health outcomes, but you had a good experience, your blood levels, you check your blood levels and everything, and they optimized. Would consumption of your own fecal material be healthy for you? Would your epistemic standard conclude that?
Yes, in that case, I would eat my own fecal matter.
Okay, cool. All right.
How long have you all been eating poop?
Okay, he's just asking you like a simple question. Is P4 true?
Well, there's 2 eventualities of comprehending the trait equalization process built in to this rebuttal argument.
Us Europeans, we eating good, all right? We eat vegetables, we eat meat, we eat what we want, when we want it, we eat oranges, okay, we eat fruit, tropical, every time of the year, we can get anything. And it should be that way. We deserve that. We deserve that. We did that, okay? We industrialized the world. We are Christian. We are God's chosen people. We deserve to have high standards of living like that. Eating crickets, that's for the jungle people. That's for the people in Borneo. Okay, that is for the global south. You will not catch me eating porridge, okay, for breakfast, lunch, and dinner like these peasants in the global south.
Do you acknowledge that there are mechanisms that we are going to learn about in the future?
Probably. They just don't exist yet.
Oh, but as soon as you become aware of it, they will exist.
Yes.
And especially when it comes to other cultures, indigenous cultures that have practices that revolve around animal products
and stuff like. I really believe we shouldn't be fucking with them.
Culture does not justify an action. Like take for example female genital mutilation. Would you say that is culturally acceptable? Is that acceptable because it's cult? What do you mean? Here we go. I mean, it's a practice that's cultural.
I literally, in a lot of cultures or a lot of tribes have come out saying they've stopped a lot of.
Wait, but that doesn't answer the question. The question he's posing to you is, do you think culture is a justifier for an action?
I'm from a personal standpoint, like there's a difference between female genital mutilation. I'm not gonna fucking combine like the two because it's fucking irrelevant and stupid argument. Eating a fucking burger or wearing a skin, or wearing a skin of a lesser animal is a little bit different than fucking hurting another human being.
Is culture a justifier for performing an action, even if it takes the life of another sentient being?
I'm gonna say yes.
If it were a human life, would you say culture is a justifier for taking a human life?
No, I'll stop it at the human life.
What's the argument for P4? I'll sit here patiently until you deliver it. Let's just see the argument.
I don't have an argument to support an assertion as a premise. You don't need it. Who would ever ask for an argument to support an assertion in a premise? Anyone listening and thinking that ask yourself is making some sort of coherent point here, that you need arguments to support individual premises.
Footsoldier, that makes no sense.
Like, if you're going to say, well, why don't you just kill yourself? You're just saying, no, you're trying to say that all suffering, every wrongdoing you do is justified because you can't stop all suffering. It's an appeal to futility.
Well, if you say a word from your debate class, then yeah, that's a word from your debate class, but that doesn't mean I'm wrong.
When we saw a supernova, for example, when you look at the stars and
there are no stars, you've never seen that in your life.
There are no stars. Okay.
There's no space either.
There's no stars and there's no space.
Nope.
Okay, and because you aren't aware of it.
Yeah, you've never seen it.
Okay, so they don't exist.
Yep.
Okay.
And you see it all the time. People don't believe me. I get emails from people that are like, "Oh, Nick, you don't know what you're talking about. There's enough land for everything." People don't understand how land management works.
This is so funny. Like, he sounds almost like a vegan, but his conclusion is, no, that's not the case. Of course everyone can eat a diet like that. White people can. Do you have any ability whatsoever to give me an argument for P4? Yes or no? Clear answer, Footsoldier. No.
False dichotomy.
And you can.
False dichotomy.
It's not a false dichotomy, you fucking moron.
It fucking is, you dickhead. Let me fucking talk.
Not the case.
Rich.
Do you prescribe to evolution?
Well, yes.
Okay, so you
descriptively, sure.
So let's get into that, right? So evolution, right? This is where we're at. So like over time, right? They will be those changes that will happen to a species over time, and then that ends up making something new, right? Kind of like wolves to dogs. So here's human beings, right? We don't have that, right? Not as much.
Well, yes,
to
we
get
do.
to where we are today. Not
Yes,
as
we
much.
do. Oh, absolutely do. I mean, like, you can absolutely look. I mean, you just referenced Homo erectus before.
So, like I was saying, right? So we don't have that much change over, not compared to other species, right?
You're talking about we're like, if you look back, you can go like a couple hundred million years, and we'll come from like mammals that were like this big, and ate like insects. Like, yes, we do.
We also kill species that have less.
What's that link? What's that missing? What's that link?
Guys, I gotta say, we have run out of time. I got.
What's true of animals that, if true of humans, would justify buying their corpses at Whole Foods?
That we have dominion over them.
Oh, okay. So if we have dominion over other humans, it's okay to Holocaust them?
No, it's not.
Great! Great! Contradiction number 4!
So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to take a picture of my backpack. Okay? And I'm gonna post it in this Discord. Are you aware of the picture existing?
That doesn't exist.
Okay, so I'm going to post the picture right now. Okay? Here's the picture. And now, is it your view that this picture just came into existence once you saw it? When did this picture of the backpack exist? When did it come into existence?
The picture 6:53 p.m.
Well, I have it clearly timestamped in my phone that I took it before then. Like, it clearly existed before it hit your eyes. Like, don't you realize that?
No.
So it's just your view that it just materialized.
This is just my reality.
Picture disabled people who are at or below the level of intelligence of the animals that we currently eat. Okay? Now picture them being genetically modified, and additionally, picture that the rest of the species is just like that. So the beings are subjectively identical to disabled people. They look exactly like disabled people, so the experience is the same, and they visually are the same, and they're standing at the gates of Auschwitz. And the question is, do you let them in?
Yeah, well, let them in. Open the gates. You know?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, open the gates of Auschwitz to beings who look exactly like the disabled and have identical minds. Right,
Yeah.
Disabled Holocaust.
Is there a threshold where any action becomes immoral that causes enough negative utility?
I think I would make a special exemption for the consumption of commodities because we're alienated from the actual moral, the immorality of the process of production. After all,
So,
harm
to be clear, if the bullet you'd have to bite there is if eating meat causes galaxies of people to be holocausted, it's still okay to eat meat. It's not something we oughtn't do. Or is there a threshold?
No, yeah, I would bite that bullet.
With respect to the vegan position, the way that you make sense of not being a vegan is by saying that you would holocaust the disabled if it were out of sight and out of mind. Just to be clear, that is the position that you're accepting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if there's humans being holocausted in this just like global mass murder and all these factory farm stuff, you're taking the position that it would be fine to actually fund that.
Yeah, because I don't believe there's ethical consumption under capitalism.
If we have a human who can't create, like let's say a disabled person, do you think it's ethical to buy their corpse at Whole Foods?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so you take the position that it's ethical to buy the corpses of disabled people at Whole Foods. It's fine to
Absolutely.
Right, so you accept the disabled Holocaust?
Absolutely.
You think that it would be like morally acceptable?
If it was right to eat and I like the taste, I would have to go with human meat. Amazing!
So, you know, there's pedophiles, right, who buy child pornography. Would you say they should not be held responsible for doing that?
Yes.
Really? Even though they're directly supporting child rape?
Yeah, I think it's hypocritical.
Another hypothetical. Let's say you pay the mercs for the dead body of a Native American. They've already killed him, and they determined how many Native Americans to kill in the future based on this. Consumption and okay, question mark?
Yeah, I would actually argue that's a morally neutral act.
Okay.
We will continue eating meat. We will continue eating vegetables. If the global people want to eat, they could let them eat rice, let them eat the crickets, let them eat the mealworms, let them eat the dung for all we care. Let them eat the dirt. Let them eat dirt cookies like in Haiti. But they will try to convince you that you...
So... Oh my god, this is the worst take I've ever heard on veganism.
Nobody wants to